This is a story about perseverance and the women who are laying the foundation for what looks to be a huge investment opportunity, women's sports, where two of the fastest growing are the WNBA and the National Women's Soccer League.
And go in the box, in the corner! The lead now double!
I think when you're looking at the women's sports space, specifically in the last 5 years, what you're seeing in the surge of growth really begins with consumers.
It wasn't really until the last 5 years that women's sports has had as much ability to be broadcast than ever before.
You're finally putting this product in the right spotlight, and it is exploding in popularity.
From tennis to volleyball to soccer to basketball, women are bringing it, both on and off the courts and the pitches, with women's sports sponsorships attracting over $1 billion and total team valuations predicted to increase from $2.6 billion in 2023 to $4.3 billion in the next 3 years.
Number one, no limited!
There is no question that women are fueling fandoms across stadiums, fields, and arenas. But is it sustainable?
Little by little, we've been able to see huge increases in viewership and investment. With that comes the investment that we're now seeing today, where people are really seeing more viewership, therefore more attendance, therefore more sponsorship, therefore more merchandise being sold, and that all leads to more external dollars coming into the ecosystem saying, I believe that this is an economy that we can support and that also will have great returns.
Good morning. Hello. How are you? How are you doing? Thank you.
Thayer Lavielle is the executive vice president of Wasserman's The Collective, a women-focused global advisory business whose mission is to drive investment in women's professional sports.
The exciting part right now about women's sports is that we're seeing similar types of investors in women's sports, which means that women's sports has reached a point where true capital partners are coming in, looking at how can they invest in this nascent economy.
Women's sports might still be new on the scene, but they're growing fast. WNBA attendance almost doubled from 2023 to 2024. And in women's soccer, the 2024 final alone drew nearly 1 million viewers, nearly twice the audience as its men's counterpart. And the money is following the eyeballs, as media rights for the NWSL jumped from $1.5 million to $60 million in the most recent deal. Given the numbers, it's no surprise that investors are paying attention, leading Lavielle to work with RBC to produce a study on the investment opportunities that women's sport provide.
We started this particular study with RBC, which is our second study with them. Earlier in 2024, really wanted to look at the trends that we were seeing about how much money was starting to come into from an investment perspective. We were seeing an enormous amount of private equity coming in, different venture capital groups, individual family offices driving some real dollars into women's teams and leagues. And so we wanted to stop and think about, from an RBC wealth investor perspective, how these teams and leagues would prove to be really good investment for them. And so we set out to look at this specifically through NWSL and WNBA because they are the most mature leagues in the United States, and really looked at very specific variables, particularly the revenue drivers.
I mean, it's amazing to me that we've reached a point where this younger generation, this is their normal. Their normal is that female athletes are able to play in a stadium like this, sold out with an incredible amount of fans.
Chris and Angie Long are among those who have become investors, leading the group that bought the NWSL's Kansas City Current.
Give a full panoramic view. As more and more opportunities to watch women's sports have arisen, you've naturally now seen this massive growth in popularity, because at the end of the day, it's all about the product on the field. When you have a product that's as fantastic as women's sports, there's no doubt it's going to be successful.
We have been big sports fans. We actually were season ticket holders to a private professional women's team that was in Kansas City. And I think, our experience in 2019 being in Paris at the Women's World Cup really was enlightening to see the opportunity from an investment side, especially in light of the tremendous amount of global growth in the women's game.
In building their franchise in Kansas City, the Longs are focused on their brand.
One of the leading jersey sales.
And one of the things that has limited the growth of women's professional sports franchises, a dedicated place to practice and play.
This whole space is for the Kansas City Current. I think that alone is a big differentiator because most other women's teams are playing in someone else's stadium. So they're relegated to a smaller space that might be more akin to a visitor's locker room. I think one of the things that is harder to put a value on, but incredibly important, is brand recognition. The first year that we had a team, it was a little bit like, oh, did you know there's a women's professional team in Kansas City now? To the point where we are now, where if we go somewhere and travel outside the country, people say, oh, Kansas City, isn't that the place that built the stadium for the women's team? And the first thing you see when you drive into this city is this stadium. There's not a person in Kansas City, the Midwest, and a lot of the country that doesn't know about the Kansas City Current and the stadium they play in.
I think from a revenue perspective, I'm unaware of another women's professional sports team globally that's done as much revenue as we did this past year, which, by the way, is only our 4th season in operation. So from a financial success standpoint, I think that speaks volumes.
From a revenue growth perspective, we're doing fantastic. I think it is north of a $20 million swing in revenue being in your own facilities. From a asset appreciation perspective, we're doing fantastic.
You look at what you can do in women's sports today, and the multiple invested capital versus the risk taken, it's out of whack. It's absolutely in the investor's favor. And I think that's part of the reason you're seeing a lot more capital pour in, including private equity firms and these new sports funds, and all the things that are happening, I think, are due to the fact people are realizing, wow, if I'm gonna take an illiquid asset investment like a sports team, I should get compensated for it. And there's no better game in town than what we're seeing on the women's side.
But there is another league taking women's sports to the next level, the WNBA. Since Caitlin Clark emerged as a budding superstar at the University of Iowa, women's basketball has skyrocketed, garnering the league more fans and opening up new markets.
We are the first expansion team since 2008. The last was Atlanta, and then following us, we have Portland and Toronto next year. So growth of WNBA has been a long time coming, and it's taken many years to get here. This building has actually always been here for the Golden State Warriors, and now it's our Valkyries Performance Center. So this is the area that, you know, the championships were won before Chase Center was built.
As in Steph Curry?
As in Steph Curry, yeah, small name, right? And now we've had an opportunity to make it our own.
Jess Smith was the head of revenue for the NWSL's Angel City Football Club, where she introduced new sponsorship models and broke records in attendance. She is now the president of the WNBA's Golden State Valkyries, the first expansion team in 17 years.
When you look back during COVID, the WNBA actually got together and played. They were the first league to do this. It was also a really key moment to where consumers were sitting at home on their couch looking for entertainment and tuning in, and really taking note of these incredible athletes, really taking note of what they were standing for when it came to social justice. And there was an unlock that began to happen with consumers in women's sports. So as consumers began to unlock giving those ratings, began to unlock buying merchandise, buying tickets, and understanding that their dollars in time and interest was driving the growth of the W, media listened, right? Teams listened, leagues listened, and more investment began to come in. And those consumers have really, really rewarded everyone in that circle that is equated to the growth.
When we talk about growth, how do you measure it? What are the metrics you pay attention to?
There's two things. One is money and revenue, right? Are your revenue lines growing? Are you investing in the right way to make sure that those are growing exponentially? And two is fandom. How many people are coming into your ecosystem through purchases, but also followership on social media or TV ratings? And so if you're looking at both of those, the growth is very significant, but we have a close eye on both every single day.
As fast as women's professional sports are growing, they still lag behind their male counterparts, at least for the most part. Where the NBA playoffs averaged 4.5 million TV viewers last year, the WNBA had 1.1 million. 22.5 million fans attended NBA games in person, where the WNBA had 2.4 million. But the gap is closing. Viewership numbers were up 139% for the women last year, but down 12% for the men.
You have a foundation in both men's and women's sports. From your experience, what's different about the two?
That's a really good question. I don't know if I've been asked it that way before. I would say the assumptions of things. In women's sports, it's been assumed that when you create a product, well, you better not lose any money. And it's just interesting the standard that has existed there. Before I joined Angel City, I was in certain rooms where organizations would think about, should we get a women's team? Should we explore this? And what was really interesting about the mindset there was that the conversation always came back to, well, if we sold 4,000 tickets, maybe we wouldn't lose money. Instead of, what would it take to sell this out? That advantageous opportunity to build a product and build a business and seek revenue and be relentless about it seemed to be lacking from my personal experience when having the ability to kind of compare the two and think of the rooms that I was in. At Angel City, what was beautiful about that experience was we had so many people from outside of sport really using sport as an opportunity to create a better tomorrow, but wanted to build a sports product because it was an untapped opportunity. How do we create the most robust partnership portfolio and assets? How do we have the best content? And then you saw the market respond. And now you've seen that effect globally, and certainly within the different leagues and teams, but that's only just getting started.
Only in the last 5 years have we been able to see more games online, more clanging of the drum for more viewership of all of these sports through both social media and through these athletes just having a bigger platform to say, hey, come and watch us.
Hey Fever fans, it's Caitlin Clark. I can't wait to get to Indianapolis. I know you guys are excited, I am too. Go Fever!
There's often been so many misconceptions about audience in women's sports. So long, people have said an NBA fan is a WNBA fan, and what we know about our consumers is that it really is for everyone. I don't know if you've seen the t-shirts that say everyone watches women's sports, and that statement is so powerful because it's true. The audience is actually pretty much 50% men and women. It's not a women's product for women. This is an incredible product for everybody.
With all the success of the WNBA, it's still less than the NBA in terms of dollars, in terms of audiences, but it's growing faster than the NBA. Can you see a day that actually the WNBA overtakes the NBA?
I don't think it's about overtaking. I think there's this limiting mindset that there can only be one. Like, can there only be one NFL versus NBA? The answer is no. What I believe and what we're already seeing is that this league will be one of the most successful sports leagues in the world, regardless of gender. It's already the 5th most watched sport here in North America. And we are only 30 years old. We have the best talent globally coming to this league, playing in this league with an upward trajectory of expansion and growth and viewership and games. That's going to be unstoppable. But there's not a this or that. I do believe that this league will be amongst the greats globally when we think of viewership and engagement.